Hello, my name is Geraldine Kohút, and I am the community liaison for Cathedral Village. And I've been here many times, and I enjoy coming. Mary Angela gets everything organized, and I always seem to meet different people as they come in. Whatever their interest is, what I'm talking about will bring people in from different places, ages, etc. But today we're going to be talking about emotional balance. And I think that's really a wonderful topic, especially these days, because, I mean, you don't want to turn the television on, because if you turn the television on, you might get a little bit squirrely, because that's all you hear about, you know, politics. And politics are good things. We need politics, we need politicians, but after a while, with everything that has been going on, it's just crazy. So now we are going to talk about emotional balance, and I think it's really an important thing, because everybody has an emotion. You might try to hide it because you don't like what's coming out, or you might. It's so important that we understand how we feel. A lot of people just sort of put it down and say, I'm all right, or I can't think about it now, or it'll go away. Well, lots of things don't go away. So we're going to talk about little things about the emotional balance. Also, I have handouts for you, but I don't like to put them out first, because then you sort of look at them and then, it's putting the cart before the horse. So I'm just going to give them out later, and I have some little good snacks for you too. So I'm happy to be here as always. There you got it, emotional balance. And I have a funny thing at the end too to talk to you about. So that's where I am. Cathedral Village is a life care community located in Philadelphia, Roxborough, Pennsylvania, and it really is, it provides all levels of care. And when I first went for the interview to work there, I didn't even know where it was. And so my boss said, well, it's all right off of Henry Avenue. So I'm going down Henry, then Ridge, because I think, well, I haven't seen anything, like a continuing care retirement community or life care. I went all the way down, and I'm thinking, well, I must have missed it. And there are many, many retirement communities, assisted living communities on Ridge and on Henry. So I turned around, came back up. All of a sudden, I saw this sign for Cathedral Village, and it's about 3 blocks from where I live, so you know how alert I am. So anyway, that's what Cathedral Village is all about, and we do have all levels of care, but the part that I love, and since I work at Cathedral Village, hello, come on in, that I love is you are right in the middle of wonderful trees, gardens. It is just beautiful, because you really can't see that much from the road. It's because it's hidden by all of these trees, and it's just lovely. And that's so unusual for the city of Philadelphia, to be in a place with all trees and gardens and greenhouses. So that's where I work. And I think just seeing all of that greenery around you gives you a really nice feeling about every day that you're there. Okay, so we're talking about emotional balance. I like to have you make sure that you're reading this, but I also read it to you so that you understand, and then we have questions. You could always question me in the middle of a slide or at the end of the day. It's really up to what you want to do. So what is the meaning of emotional balance? Have you considered your emotional balance? Have you ever sat down and thought, wow, I probably shouldn't have said that to Mary. She got so upset. Well, I was just expressing my emotion. Well, sometimes people don't want to hear emotions, So, but you have to know what you're capable of doing. And also, number one big thing, how do you handle stress? Stress, we're talking about the television and everything that you see on TV that gives you stress. If you watch it, lots of people I've heard are really not turning that TV on as much as they used to, because of the stress that they feel when you see all of this stuff going on in our city, the city of brotherly love to start with. The emotional state that we are in affects how we respond to stress. So you look at the emotion and you look at stress at the same time, because they are very connected. Emotional health. It's much more than free of depression, anxiety, tension, sadness, or a psychological illness. So that emotional health means that if you are healthy emotionally, you may not have these things. Well, that's wonderful. But you might have one of them. And when that comes in to hit you, it may hit you very hard. Descriptors of healthy emotions. Well, you like life, a zest for living. You have the ability to laugh and have fun. I would put that number one, because if you can laugh during the day and appreciate that laughter, it's going to take you away from some of the sadness you may be feeling. A sense of meaning in your daily life. You know, you came today to hear this presentation, and that is going to give you some meaning in your daily life. You decided to come here to learn a little something about stress and emotions. Purpose in relationships. I just really think that some people have or talk about having, well, I have 20 friends, and we don't get together much, but I know I have 20 friends that I can count on. But you have to really garner and develop those relationships, especially if you want them to work well. So when you might just have one best buddy. That's a good thing. If you have that one best buddy that you both can count on, instead of the numbers that some people have and say, well, I don't really need anything. I have so many friends. But then when you call that friend that you think you have, she's sort of like, well, I haven't talked to you like for about, a couple of months. Is that the friend that you really have? So people sort of make friendships and relationships what they need them to be. Now, relationships are key. Why do we say that? It's the ability to build and maintain healthy ones, healthy relationships. We've all had those relationships that don't work, or that you don't really enjoy that person, but they keep on knocking on your door or telephoning you. Relationships are really, really hard to maintain. Also, when you have that good relationship, you feel good about it, sense of accomplishment. Well, I just met this gal, and she was just so nice, and wow, I met her at an event that I went to, and we've been buddies for about 3 years. Isn't that nice? You met, you didn't know each other, you didn't have relationships before, but you stayed together because there was something that you both enjoyed or that you both needed. When you have a good relationship, it's a self-confidence, and you kind of feel good about yourself. It's always good to know that if you need somebody, you can pick up that telephone and call, or you can text. Balance in life. Who has not had emotional challenges? And the list goes on. I mean, especially at our ages. You've gone through all of the different stages of your life, and you certainly have had some issues with disappointments, loss of a family member, loss of wife, husband, children. That's really hard to get through. Change. Well, you had a big old house, and all of a sudden everybody has moved out. Not only have they moved out, they're your children, but also kids today, they don't find jobs right around where they used to live. They may go to New England, they may go to Florida, wherever that job that that person really thinks they want is, that's where they go. Years ago, you could just count on, when if it was like Thanksgiving, well, you knew who was coming. Your family is coming because they all live around you. Nowadays, it's not that way. You have to really develop and hold on to those relationships. You can have stress and anxiety. So all of these things are there, and you're the leader that has to put balance into all of these situations that we all go through. Resilience, coping with the problem. So you have this problem. How do you deal with it? Well, number one, you cope with the problem, because those problems generally don't go away unless you address them. You just sort of put them in the back burner, and then you wake up the next morning and it's still in that back burner. So you have to really understand, what to do. And bouncing back is key. When you have a bad situation, you deal with it and you're able to move forward. Always focus with a positive attitude and the ability to express your feelings. Over the years, I have friends that they always, everything's fine. and then you look at that person and she doesn't look fine, she looks like something's wrong. So you sort of dig a little bit if that person wants you to. Some people will just say, no, I'm fine, I don't want to talk about it, I'm good, I talked to Mary about it. Mary is one of my cohorts, and it's easy for me to talk to Mary. You always focus on a positive attitude and the ability to express your feelings. Again, it's easy to say all of these things, but as we grow older, a lot of your buddies that you had and you relied on have moved away. They move away because neighborhoods aren't the same. All of the people that are moving in, they have little kids, and well, you loved when you had little kids, but now you're sort of different from the neighbors because you don't have little kids around. So people sort of have that tendency to want a little bit of solace and relaxation in lieu of, being around children and bicycles and things like that. All good things if you're raising your children, but some people sort of move away from that kind of a neighborhood. This is the big one. Express your feelings. Have a conversation. Don't keep your feelings bottled up. A lot of us do that. Sometimes you do it because you don't want to share bad news, or you don't want to share something that was told to you in confidence, so you don't share, you keep it bottled up. Response to the emotion is key. So if you're having a situation that really is not good, you really, really have to respond, and respond with the thought that if I can't solve it, I need to either help that person or hope that they go to someone else and talk about that. If you think the person is not doing well, needs support, make sure you talk to that person about, have you ever thought of going to, first of all, your primary care physician? That person, that primary care physician is there for you. Now you say, well, I don't want to tell them if I'm having, problems with my neighbor. Well, you may not have to go into detail about that, but it's causing you stress. So you go to the doctors and your blood pressure is sky high, and he says, what's wrong? I don't know. Well, why don't you say, well, I'm having some difficulty with my neighbor. At least there's a reason, perhaps, that your blood pressure is up. So you have to share these things. Also, you have to feel the emotion. If you're sad for your neighbor, feel that sadness, because that'll make you understand a little bit, perhaps, the way she or he is feeling. And also, the biggest part, have the ability to talk to someone. A lot of people keep things so bottled up, and that really wears on you physically and mentally. Care for your body. Strong link to good physical health promotes both mental and emotional health. So when you're thinking about emotions, exercise, good nutrition, socialization, relationships, and a good night's sleep. I am not a good sleeper.
Neither.
I can't help it. And, I don't want to take medicine.
Neither.
Because, oh heavens, why would a nurse take medicine if you can't sleep? But I'm trying to do other things to really get tired, perhaps, exercise maybe not at night, because then you're all revved up. So maybe you do that in the morning. So I'm working on trying to change some things that my husband has keep on saying, oh yeah, you've been working on that for years. But anyway, we won't go into that. Keep emotions in balance. So the following activities support that balance. So you know that you're having some emotional problems or issues. And one of the biggest things you can do physically and mentally is to volunteer. Volunteering does really so much for the volunteer. Even though you think, well, I'm giving, I'm helping, I feel so good when I'm doing this, but it gives you so much feeling of that you've done something for somebody else. So volunteering is a wonderful way to keep your emotions in balance. Discover new experiences. If you've never had the experience of working in a daycare program, because your children, you took care of them yourself, and you didn't have, in the day we didn't just send kids off to daycare. Well, now, today, husband, wife, husband, whatever, they're working long hours. They have to take their children to a daycare center or a friend. So that really, again, puts another toll on you. So experiencing, even working at a daycare center would be wonderful. Listen to classical music. Now I mean really classical. You know, the ones with the clarinet playing, like a love song, and you could hear that emotion that is evoking from that classical music. They say classical music is the best thing to kind of settle you down. Engage in creative work. There are so many little part-time jobs out there that you can do. And I'm only sharing this information because all of this helps you on a day-to-day basis if you want to do that. All of these are just suggestions. Make leisure time a priority. You almost should put it on your to-do list. You know, at 4 o'clock today, it's a beautiful day, I'm going to walk around the neighborhood. 4 o'clock today, I'm going to go to the exercise class. Do things that really make you aware, and also make leisure time. It's hard to get leisure time sometimes. You put a lot of stuff in your to-do list, if you make a to-do list, and then all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, where did this day go? So it's always nice to have a little, you jot things down. I do a presentation when we're just talking about how can you improve what you do on a daily basis. And I always say, just do a to-do list. We don't have to stick to that to-do list. We don't have to number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and because if these are the things you want to do, they're going to be on your list tomorrow too. But just think of a couple of things that you want to just do in that day. The worry hazard. Worry or concern before something happens. It takes a huge toll on your life, and you don't even realize it's happening. It tires you out. It triggers fear. You're anxious, and you get angry. When I have to share this, my oldest sister, Norma, she is since deceased, but she worried for everyone. She was our worry ward. And she was wonderful, wonderful. She had 4 children, and my sister, we're all like different. My brother was 22 years older than I was, and then my next sibling was 20 years old. Then the next sibling was 9 years older than I was, and then I came along. Well, I was just like, everybody thought I was like, what? Jenny, did you have a kid? I thought that's my mother. You know, and she did, but I was the baby of the family, and it took a long time for me to tell my siblings I'm no longer the baby, but they did that for years. But anyway, worry just ties you down. And Norma, my sister, I mean, when you would go to the beach, we used to go to Wildwood when we were all younger and the families were all together, so we'd go to Wildwood, and then we switched from Wildwood to Ocean City. But Norma was the actual lifeguard for everybody. Now, Norma couldn't swim, but she'd put that hat on, she'd go to the water's edge, and she'd watch everyone that was in that water. And if they possibly got a little deeper than she wanted, was probably up to the knees, she'd call them back. That was Norma. And we used to call her a worry ward, and she worried for everybody. And if you were doing something, she'd always ask, do you need any help? But she was our worry ward, and she said, okay, next time I'm not going to the water's edge, and if somebody drowns, it's your problem. We used to tease her all the time, but that's what she was. She was the worry ward of our family, and she worried for everyone. Awareness of emotional balance. So what you have to do is be aware that you are experiencing an emotion, and that's a good thing. A lot of people just ignore it totally. You're experiencing that emotion. Then you identify it. What am I feeling right now? And these are things that just think about them. You're angry with someone. Tightness in your neck and shoulders happens sometimes. So if you're angry with somebody, you haven't shared it, you're angry, you get that tightness in your neck and shoulders. Sadness and aching in your chest. These are all things that happen when you're basically out of balance. Fear, you start to sweat or tremble. Now you have joy. It's warmth in your heart. Laughter is a smile. So all of these balances are right there. You have to be aware, and every day you may have a different challenge, but oftentimes those things kind of stay with you. So that's what trying to be in balance really means. Okay, a tense emotion. Okay. I am so angry. I am just madder than a Mad Hatter. Did you see what happened the other day with Mary when she came over and told me that I shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z? I'm angry. Next emotion, you've all had this, it's sadness. Or you've heard of the death of one of your neighbors, and you're really sad for him who died, and the wife that is there left. How is she going to cope? I don't know if her money is enough, so that sadness is there. People are afraid. Well, I'll tell you, Philadelphia, well, we live in Roxborough, but it's not the safest place in the world. Every night there are murders and things. It's just, I can't believe this is happening to our city.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will be corrected. But it's just overwhelming when you see the news. So my husband and I was we're not watching the news tonight. I want to find out. I said, well, you should find out, because our son really lives in Pensport. That's where a lot of activity is happening. So, I mean, that is really, you do become afraid. I'm alone, and that's another thing too, for challenging. We are living longer, and that's a good thing. I don't want to say that's bad. But, years ago, well, I would say our first Social Security check was written in, I think it was like 1932. I think that's the right date. And it was like for $24 a month.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine that? How can you live? You could live for $24 a month, but you can't now. Now it always increases. But the reason that they even had that, it was after World War I. They knew people were just needing financial support, and that was the first check for people that needed help and support, and it was for about $22 on a monthly basis. So all of these things are talking about the emotion. It's talking about being tense. All of these little adjectives are about being tense and what we're going to do about it. Now we have the big one. What is depression? Well, there is clinical depression. It is a mental health issue. And sometimes you're sad, sometimes you just don't feel right, you don't feel good about something in your life. And you say to somebody, I'm just depressed. Well, I don't use those words very frequently, because depression is something that needs to be treated. If you feel that way for 2 weeks, every day you wake up and you feel really down, that's what depression does. You really feel down. You don't, you can't even describe it, but you know you're not going to be social. You know you don't want to pick up that phone and call a friend. You are down. So, and it is something that has to be corrected. It affects 1 in 10 Americans. 1 in 10 Americans will have clinical depression. It is persistent feelings of sadness, worthlessness, and hopelessness. So that is depression. So if you ever have this feeling of severe sadness, worthlessness, I'm just not worth a thing. I can't help anybody. I'm just miserable. What is wrong with me? And then you become hopeless. So that is true depression. True depression does need help and support. It's persistent feelings of sadness, worthlessness, hopelessness. These feelings do not go away on their own. Intervention is needed. So what I'm saying, if you or anyone that you know has these challenges on a daily basis, do not want to go out, does not socialize. I think I do a seminar on socialization. I think out of every program that I have, I think socialization is key. Every one of you that are here today, you may not be talking to one another. You might leave right after this presentation is over, but you see people here. That's part of socialization. You did something today for you, but just by doing it for you, you're seeing other people knowing that they want to learn more about what we're talking about, the emotion. That in itself is so good. So give yourself a pat on your shoulder, because this coming here makes you do something for you. Or you may be doing it for a friend, but you want to learn more about it. So depression, it doesn't go away, and intervention is needed. I know as a student nurse, I graduated from Thomas Jefferson University, and we, for our psychiatric for a psychiatric period of time, which was 3 months, we all had to go to a psychiatric place. I was, number one, I went to Byberry. Now, probably no, oh, there's a smile, okay. Byberry had building after building after building of people that were mentally not well. You would go all the way up Roosevelt Boulevard, going northeast, and you would turn left at this street, Byberry. Well, and then the student nurses were only in one building. We were only allowed in one building because those people were people that had psychological socialization disorders, and they needed they needed to be where they were at Byberry, but they needed support. So they thought these people were not dangerous, but student nurses would really gain a lot of information about how to deal with someone that had these disorders. And a lot of the student nurses loved it because you just did the morning time, and then like after 3 o'clock, I mean, you were free to do anything you want. And when you went every day, you had to go to your unit that you were working with specific residents. And a lot of people just did their thing. They played checkers, they did this, and they said it was the best 3 months of their lives. Well, I was one of them that said it was not the best, because I felt so sorry for the people. And they were just there. Most of them didn't have family members, or if they did, the family members came in. But oftentimes, some people don't even have anybody. And that's really sad. But anyway, that was my experience at Byberry. I have another story for that, but it's not for today. Well, one of the residents actually escaped, and that person knew that I was from Jefferson because we wore Jefferson name tags and uniforms. He, from Byberry, Northeast Philadelphia, he came to Jefferson, and I was with a group of friends eating at a luncheonette. He must have followed me from the dormitory to that luncheonette, and he looked through the window, and I saw his face. I thought I was going to die. Well, if I didn't have friends around me, I probably would have. So they walked me to one of the fraternity houses because it was right almost next door, and they called the police. Well, he had already scooted away. He was in the Philadelphia area for about 4 days. They couldn't find him. Now, that was a person that was, how he escaped, I have no idea. How he found me, I have no idea. But that's one of my wonderful memories from Byberry, because I was scared to death. I thought, well, if he could find me as I'm walking or I'm doing something in the, at Jefferson in the hospital. So that's my story. I added that, but that was really frightful. But I do remember feeling these people, they didn't have enough support. That's why they landed up where they did. But emotions can do so much now when you have a physical issue like depression that has to be treated. Classification of clinical depression. It is a mood disorder that can interfere with daily life. So you have depression, clinical depression. You're not going to be the same as you were 2 years ago. It interferes with daily life. It's a near constant state of sadness, emptiness, and despair, lasting minimally 2 weeks. So if you have a friend or person, or you yourself, feeling this way, and it's at minimally 2 weeks, then you really have to seek some attention. During that time, hard time eating, sleeping, working, or connecting with people. You don't want anybody around you. You want to stay alone, and you want to just almost grieve. Hard time eating, I told you that. Debilitating disease and can seriously affect well-being and life. Untreated episodes last 6 months to 2 years. So there are people living, either if they're living by themselves or they have somebody that does check on them, that can have this clinical depression for 6 months and not even go to the doctors about it. If you don't go, it's really hard to medicate after that because you don't really know where to start. So clinical depression is very, very upsetting for the person, and they know that they're going through it. And when you really talk about depression, you've heard the word melancholy. You're kind of down, and you really don't want to do anything. You don't want to socialize, but in about a few days you're feeling yourself again. Maybe it even takes 2 weeks. Melancholy is you're sad, you withdraw a little bit, but it's not the seriousness of depression. So I think you really have to be able to separate both of them. Red flag feelings. Inability to sleep. It's a red flag. Feeling down, hopeless, sad most of the time. All of these things that I'm talking about, it's just not one type of an issue. It's most of the time. Difficulty in concentrating, interfering with work or home. Using nicotine, food, drugs, or alcohol to cope. So any of these red flag feelings, so let's say you really feel sorry for yourself, you know you're depressed. So what do? Well, I'm going to eat a little bit more because, I can. Nobody's home with me today. I'm going to eat like maybe 3 meals or 4 meals, or eat that big quart of ice cream that I just bought at the store. So that's some of the things that you can do. But it's just really a challenge if you don't reach out. People need to reach out. And in our society today, it's not too easy to reach out. Everybody's busy, busy, busy. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, people move to places where they think they're comfortable or safe, then they have to sell that house because it's too big or whatever. I know where we live, and we have, there's so many, I don't know if anybody's been down Roxborough Avenue, or when we first moved in about 11 years ago, and we moved from Allentown, there were so many spaces of just green. You would see one big lot of green and grass, the next big lot of green and grass going up the avenue. Well, now they're all apartments and condos. Yeah. The green space has gone away, which is good because people want to live. They want to live in nice areas, and shopping is good, etc., etc. But it is really a challenge when you think about people and where they live and how they associate with other people. Nicotine is not good. Alcohol is not good. But people use these things to cope. Uncontrolled negative or self-destructive thoughts, that's not good. Thoughts of death or suicide. So when we talked about this was really serious condition that we have. It's not that, a couple of days you're feeling down a little bit, that's not it. These are serious red flags feelings. And if you have a friend or family member that is exhibiting any of these, it is serious. Alcohol use. Older adults. 40% of older adults, 65 and older, drink alcohol. It may interfere with medication. It can cause health issues. The amount consumed is key. And I think it's important to have this in here because essentially emotions really can bring you down, and some people will have that glass of wine just to calm them down a little bit. Nothing wrong with it, but it's the amount that you're consuming, and it's the why you're consuming it. Increased sensitivity to alcohol, special considerations. Aging may lower sensitivity or tolerance to alcohol. So the older you are, the less tolerant you are to the alcohol, and you may be consuming a glass of wine that you did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, all of a sudden it hits you differently. Effects of alcohol more quickly than when you were younger, same thing. Maybe at a higher risk for falls, car crashes, and other unrelated tasks, which is, again, drinking and driving are no-nos. Heavy drinking can make these health issues worse. Diabetes, high blood pressure, liver problems, congestive heart failure, memory problems, and osteoporosis. So, heavy drinking, all of these things, diabetes, high blood pressure, liver, congestive, a lot of these things are connected also to aging. So that is very significant for you to know that drinking may cause these things. And anything in moderation, and you know that that moderation is good, do it. Certain medications, when mixed with alcohol, can also interact poorly. Just taking an aspirin, and perhaps I always use that glass of wine, can interfere. Tylenol, acetaminophen, cough syrup. Cough syrup really has some alcohol in it, and that can interfere. Any type of pain medication, anxiety, or depression meds. So certain medications mixed with the alcohol consumption can cause issues. Drinking guidelines for older adults. Adults over the age of 65 and who are healthy and do not take medication should not consume more than 3 drinks daily or 7 drinks in 1 week. Now this came from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. So these numbers are high, but they're saying this is the maximum that you should if you are an adult over the age of 65. Drinking more than this has a tendency to put people at risk for serious alcohol problems, which we talked about. And if you have a health problem or take certain medicine, you may need to drink less or not at all. So just use common sense, but drinking can be a good thing if you know how to drink and if you enjoy it, and especially with other people. I think that's, these guidelines basically are giving you information because alcohol is part of some people's lives, and there's no problem with that, but you have to be aware. Social isolation, this is my thing. Isolation occurs when an individual is cut off from their ties, families, activities, and driving. Isolation is really tough on older adults. You don't know where to turn. You don't know the best thing to do. And it just happens. I talked about having a larger house, you move to a smaller house, you move to an apartment. Your life is really changing. And we say, or it is true, that as we age, we probably make more changes as we age than we did when we were younger. Mm-hmm. Those things just kind of happened, and there was no issue with it. People were doing the same things that you were doing. But now, as we age, it seems that it's harder to do some things, and you have to really be alert to say, this is for me, this is what I need to do. Social isolation, loss of a spouse. Some people don't get over that. Mm-hmm. 6 months, they say. Some people say, 6 months. Yes, you're shaking your head. It's not 6 months. Some people can. Or a year, 2 years. These are things that just happen. You can't control some things. But if you don't sort of get some help, and I'm not talking, going to anybody specific, but when you're starting to feel that way after a loss of a spouse or a very good friend, I always say, think about it, and think about how you're feeling about it for like the first week, the second week. I'm not even talking about a spouse, a good friend. How do you feel about that? And if you feel that you're really becoming morose, you're not socializing, you're not going out, give yourself a little check and balance and say, this really is not the best situation for me. And also, some older adults have a change in their network, and feelings of loneliness can occur. That's very, very, very understandable. Your best friend you've had for years, you raise your kids together, you lived together. When one was sick, you helped, all of those things. But those things change. People move. They have to for certain, very certain, many reasons. But when that happens, it doesn't help if you're feeling lonely due to that loss. The impact of social isolation. First of all, you can have physical, poor health, alcohol and substance abuse, and suicidal thoughts. So social isolation can occur if you don't understand that you can't isolate yourself. Emotional, reduced confidence in self, diminished self-worth, despair, strong predictor of depression in later life. So without that, if you have social isolation, these things can happen to you. Cognitive, shortened attention span, or forgetfulness, may feel no reason or opportunity to remain aware and alert. So when you isolate yourself, who cares? Do you really get dressed in the morning? Well, I'm not going to see anybody today. I'm not going to get dressed. Well, it's now 4 o'clock. Well, I didn't get dressed. I'm still in my pajamas. These things happen to people that isolate themselves because they know nobody's going to knock on their door and say, "Hi, Mary, want to go to the drugstore with me? I like to shop with somebody else." Nobody's knocking on that door because of that socialization factor or lack thereof. Emotionally balanced tips. Physical and emotional health are connected. So we talked about that. You are connected. First step, take care of your body. Enough sleep, 7 to 8 hours. People, as we age, we think, well, I don't need that much sleep anymore. First of all, I'm not doing as much as I used to do. I can get away with 6 hours, or I could get away with 5 hours. Sleep is really critical. If you're not sleeping, and take it from somebody that can really talk the truth, you have to really go to your doctor and say, this is what's happening. And he'll say, well, try XYZ, try a sleeping pill, whatever he's going to say to you. But sleep deprivation is really, really important. Good nutrition, lots of us, you don't eat 3 meals a day. I think that probably happens to a lot of people. Regular exercise, any movement is good. It boosts your mood. And I always say, even if you aren't exercising around here, I say, get up between commercial breaks. Now, commercial breaks in the day, first of all, used to be 30 minutes. That's in the day. Well, show would start 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock p.m., and the next commercial would be 8:30. Then, every 15 minutes, it would start at 8 o'clock, 8:15, there was a commercial. Nowadays, it could be every 5 minutes. You see the same commercial over and over again. And think of the amount of people that look at those commercials, or like you just hear it all the time, and you're so tired of seeing, the stuff that they advertise is like amazing to begin with. But that does really affect you very much. A dose of sunlight is great, and again, limit that alcohol use. Resilience. Everyone will experience disappointments. That's normal. That's true. Loss, change, all are a part of our lives. But you still feel the sadness, anxiety, and stress that these issues cause. And it does. You feel those. You feel it. Resilience is so important. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be presenting, starting in January, a program just on resilience, because as we age, we understand that if you're not strong, if you're not resilient to get through these things that I've been talking about, things can happen to you. You could just become mundane. You could just become, I don't care. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to wear my pajamas. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. But resilience is really what we have to look at. Everyone will experience these things that we talked about. But even if you experience them, you still feel that sadness, anxiety, and stress that caused all of these issues. Balance, because this is all about balance, emotional balance, comes from a person's ability to balance stress and your emotions. So I started the context of all of this talking about stress. That's big. That is so big in our lives, and we've got to try to control that, because stress is going to control your emotion. If you're happy and you have a sense of worth and you are able to reach out to a friend, one friend is really all you need. And I'm saying you could have 10 friends. Wonderful, wonderful. But if you have one person, you can pick up the telephone and call and say, hi, Jean, I'm just not feeling good today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, then you start talking, and Jean says, well, what's wrong? Do you have symptoms? Are you sick? Do you have a cough? No, I just don't feel like myself. That one phone call could perk you up. And then on the other end, there's that person's trying to help you. So balance comes from a person's ability to balance stress and your emotions, a strong support system that you trust. It can be one individual. So all I can say is, as we leave today, it's really important to find that one individual that you can call. And just, you don't have to call them every day, but you can call if you need that person. And that person is going to help you and or refer you to someone, but you need that one person. Now, before questions, I have handouts, etc., but I have some things that I just wanted to talk to you about, and I'll make sure that you get these handouts. Okay. One thing, I'm going to read you a poem, because I think it's really good, and it's called How to Live Your Dash. And we got this poem from very good friends, really best friends of my husband. And he was in our wedding. I knew him only through my husband and our wedding. And then we moved away, they moved away. but we tried to reconnect to them when we came back to Philadelphia. And he was just such a great person, and just terrific. And his wife was the same way. Anyway, he died, and he died of a stroke, a heart attack, right away. I mean, he didn't survive anything. And we had just seen him about a month before, and that we four of us all said, we've got to do this more often, because we had been apart for so many years, because we didn't live close to one another. So he died, and we were just so upset. Went to the funeral and the viewing, and then they had a luncheon afterwards. And it was really, I mean, there were so many people there, because he was a teacher. He was an elementary school teacher, and he had done that for his entire life. He loved little children. So some of the kids were there. It was just really special. But during all of this, and they had the lunch, a person got up and wanted to read this. And they felt that it was so much like our friend. And it's called How to Live Your Dash. And I have other handouts in here, but this I'm just going to read, and it's in here. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his tombstone from beginning to the end. He noted that first came his date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what that little time is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spent our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger, and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy's being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? I just think it's a wonderful poem. And his wife read it at the luncheon, and gave us everyone a copy. And I think it's just so true about that dash. 1940 to 2024. What did you do? How were you? How did you react? What friends did you have? What friends have you lost? That dash is very significant. And I just, as I said, I gave it to you. It's just one of those things that you just read it and you could just understand what that person is saying. What is between that dash, and make it a good dash. And you can always start today. So are there any questions at all?
Oh, I thought you had a question. I have a comment. Okay. Yes. I have found the greatest thing for me, I was very sad a few weeks ago and kind of felt almost despair. And what I did is, and I've been doing this for years, but I did it better. My husband and I sat in the car and I said, let's play a game. You say something you're grateful for, but go into specifics. Mm-hmm. See, most people I've found say, oh, I'm grateful for my kids, period. That's it. And they don't feel any better. We got, within half an hour, our spirits were raised tremendously.
Isn't that nice?
So I do it every day.
Yeah?
It's the best thing for me.
Thanks for sharing, because that is true. What are you grateful for? What are you happy about?
And also accomplishments. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. But you see, I haven't taught for 20 years. I won every kind of award for teaching before, and what I did is I have a notebook and say, this and this and this, look what I accomplished with, I taught 30,000 children. in all those years. And look at this one, how she came out and blah, 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 blah. And it reaffirms that
Yeah,
I have enriched the lives of all these
Yeah.
people.
that is great to share, it really is. I think that's a good thing to do, because we have, if we don't do it, nobody else is gonna do it. And you have to be alert and aware, it's your life, it's your day, and just take it and run with it. And your emotion, it's hard, you know, emotion is not an easy thing to even deal with. Even emotional balance isn't, you know, I gave you all the statistics and all of that, but it's not easy, and we just all have to try for ourselves to say, what would work better? Yes.
My father's mother always, she was a poet, and she said, I count my blessings one by one at dawn and when the day is done. And I try to think of things I'm grateful for. And another thing is, when you have worries, try to, as the worries get solved, you chalk them off your worry list.
That's a good thing too.
Yeah.
That is very good. I like sharing.